Thanks so much for being here with us on a Monday, and it's great to have you with us, Valerie.
Thank you. Good to be here. I'm Valerie Castro in for Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We begin this morning with those deadly wildfires in Maui.
Officials say the death toll in the Lahaina fire has climbed to at least 96, making it the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history. What was once a lush green paradise is now reduced to charred debris. Hawaii's governor says the damage is estimated at close to $6 billion in Lahaina. More than 2,000 structures were destroyed or damaged. And this morning, families are desperately searching for loved ones.
It looks like a war zone. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. The phones are ringing in the body bags. People still looking for their family. They ripped you here so fast.
This scrutiny continues to mount over whether people were given enough warning about the wildfires. Reports indicate Hawaii's emergency warning sirens were never activated, and an investigation into that is still ongoing. We're bringing you updates throughout the morning on the wildfires, but we begin with NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin at the War Memorial Stadium shelter in Wailuku. Dana, good morning. Give us a sense of what things are looking like there. Does the shelter have enough resources to help all of the evacuees who are in need?
Valerie, good morning. It's about 1 a.m. local time. You can see behind me, they've got the entrance to the War Memorial Complex closed off right now. A lot of people asleep at this hour. We were here over the weekend. We saw pallets of donations, so much stuff. They've really got a lot of good items here. The latest on what they are still in need of: meals, water, toiletries, underwear. Those are just some of the items. And they're really asking people to give monetary donations to reputable organizations, because a lot of times people just flood the area with things, and some of them are not up to code for FEMA or the Red Cross, so they sometimes have to put those things aside. But the best way they're asking people to help is to send money through those reputable organizations, unless they're like toiletries, underwear, water, meals. We're seeing a lot of businesses actually step up to provide those. Valerie?
So much help will be needed there. The Hawaii Governor Josh Green said the state is focusing on the need for housing for survivors, evacuees, and first responders. Dana, what sort of a plan do they have in place?
Right now, they've set aside about 500 hotel rooms that they're going to start filling today. We know there are about 1,100 evacuees that are spread across several shelters here in Maui. They're asking people who have vacation plans here in Maui, if they can, to not come to the island, because those hotel rooms could actually go to people who need them most. We do have some people that are still here vacationing, so right now they're working on a long-term plan to house people. They've even asked, the governor has even asked people across the state to open up their homes, Valerie, to take in some of these evacuees.
Officials have said some businesses that have reopened could provide much-needed resources to those in need. What do we know about that?
Yeah, so in Lahaina, 3 businesses have actually reopened. There's a market open 24/7, allowing residents to get the necessities and food that they need. Also, 2 gas stations have reopened, thanks in part to the electricity being restored to about 60% of customers that were impacted by this. You've also got a lot of local businesses across the island that are stepping up, whether they're providing food, transportation. There's also a free shuttle that's helping to take Lahaina residents to and from markets in central Maui. So there's just so many people that are stepping up to do what they can, and it's a really beautiful thing to see.
Just amazing that any businesses have been able to reopen. Dana, FEMA is on the ground this morning helping with the response and recovery process. How can people begin to register for that federal assistance?
Yeah, we've got a graphic for those who need this information. You can go to disasterassistance.gov. There's also a phone number that you can call, 1-800-621-3362. You can also visit a FEMA staff member in person if you're here on the island. They are setting up assistance programs to get vouchers for housing. As far as the long-term plan, that's something that they are still working out. And obviously a lot of residents here are vowing to rebuild, but that is going to take years, if not decades. Right now, crews are really focused on trying to recover those missing bodies. Most of them burned. They're asking people, relatives who are missing family members, to give their DNA so they can try to identify those bodies. As of Saturday, which was the last update, they've only searched about 3% of the disaster zone. So it's going to be a long process here. Valerie.
Okay, Dana, we appreciate your reporting there on the ground. Thank you so much.
And now joining us again this morning is Madeline Lee from Hawaii, who survived the wildfires. May, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you first joined us here on this show on Friday just a couple days ago. You told us about how quickly you had to escape these flames in Lahaina. Tell us now how you're doing and what's changed, what the last few days have been like since we last spoke.
Hi, good morning. I wouldn't say much has changed. The good thing that's changed is that more people have been found, that we weren't sure if they were alive or not. So that's been really the victories that we have right now. It's slowly finding our loved ones. Other than that, it's a nightmare that won't end. It's just every time you wake up or every time you think about it, you see a picture, it's like the worst heartbreak you can possibly imagine.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about finding loved ones. What were those efforts like and what ultimately happened? When did you find out?
It's basically just been that the cell service has been so poor and so spotty on the west side. It still is. It's getting better, but it's still not good. Lahaina is not just, the west side is not just Lahaina. The west side is 10 miles past Lahaina too, where people fled to, and they haven't been able to really reach out. And also with limited access to the west side, people can't leave. So it's been, as people spotty have service, they will check in. We have Facebook pages, and there's a list of names that people that couldn't find each other reported on. And then slowly but surely you check in the list, and the names are now not in green. They're not in red, they're in green now. So it says found. But that's kind of the only way to find out, unless people have cell service that can call you.
Oh, so difficult on top of all this to not just be able to be in touch with each other. Tell us what the biggest challenges your community is facing are now that we're nearly a week since the start of these fires. What is it that people that you know, that your community needs?
There's a lot of talk of FEMA and Red Cross. They're not doing anything. The only people that are helping the community right now is the community. It's just talk. It's just talk. The people that are over there, they're not getting help from FEMA. They're getting help from each other. People from Oahu are driving boats to the west side delivering goods. It's outrageous. We're not getting help from the government at all. It's the community helping the community. That's how Maui is. That's how Hawaii is. And we just need people to know that people are sending goods to us that we're not getting because FEMA is taking it, saying it's not FEMA approved, when it's things that we desperately need.
Like what types of things?
I'm not over there myself because I don't want to be a part of that traffic jam. So I'm just hearing from friends of mine that are in touch with me. They're saying that they're not seeing any official, there's nobody taking charge. It's just, they were saying a couple of days ago that it felt like it was the Lord of the Flies over there. It was just, there's nobody in control. Nobody is directing anybody. It's just a bunch of people just grieving, and they have nobody to follow, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's heartbreaking to hear, but it does make sense. May, thank you very much for joining us again. I mean, it is incredible to hear about the people who live there helping the other people who live there and that resiliency. We appreciate you talking to us again, and we will continue to check in. We're thinking about you and your family.
Thank you. Just keep us in our hearts and keep Lahaina in our hearts. It's a very strong community, and we just we want to rebuild, and we want to get that going as soon as possible. So whatever we can get help with, we appreciate it.
Absolutely. May, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Turning to the weather now, storms are expected across the country today, and some are even expected to impact Hawaii by this weekend. Let's get a closer look at what to expect with your Morning News Now weather forecast.
Yeah, tell us how much of a problem that's going to be. Andrew Lassman, hi, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, it's more of an indirect impact that we're talking about, and it's down the line. We could see a potential of some stronger winds here in the short term over the next maybe day or so. But by the time we get into late in the weekend and into early next week, we could see some indirect impacts from a system, a tropical system that we're tracking. So let's start with those trade winds. We've got a high to the north. We've got Tropical Storm Greg that is newly formed, but sits to the south and east of the island chain. Now, this is a little bit of a different setup than what we dealt with Dora when we saw those really strong winds as Dora sat to the south and the high pressure was to the north. This high is farther away than it was last week when we were talking about that setup. And Tropical Storm Greg is not nearly as strong as Hurricane Dora was at that time. So those are some important distinctions that we have to make. Either way, though, we will see those enhanced trade winds. So we're talking about breezy to gusty conditions across the island chain here as we go through the next couple of days. Something to note with fires still burning, of course, across Hawaii. Now, here's the rest of what we're watching. Hurricane Fernanda, this continues to move to the west, and that'll be something that we watch through the next couple of days, continuing to rapidly intensify. We've got Tropical Storm Greg that I just mentioned. That'll continue to move to the west as well. And we've got another tropical disturbance that right now has a 40% chance of developing. We could likely see this become a tropical depression in the next couple of days. So we'll be closely watching that. And when it comes to Fernanda, Category 3 right now, those winds have come up 125 miles per hour, but you see the westward movement at 8 miles per hour. The track keeps it south of Hawaii, but again, those indirect impacts could happen as we get into the late part of the weekend and into early next week. You'll notice that it does weaken. We're not talking about a Category 3 hurricane here as we go through, Saturday, Sunday, and into early next week as it gets closer to the islands, but we will be continuing to keep a close eye on that, guys.
All right. Angie, thank you so much. We'll talk to you in a little bit.
Fulton County, Georgia District Attorney Fani Willis is preparing to present her election interference case against Donald Trump to the grand jury. Georgia's former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan and independent journalist George Chidi both confirmed they received notice to appear in court tomorrow after being subpoenaed to testify. Former Georgia State Senator Jen Jordan and former lawmaker Bee Nguyen have also been called to testify in the case.
It marks a major move forward for the 2-year investigation into the alleged attempts from Trump and his allies to reverse the 2020 election results in Georgia. And it comes just weeks after the former president was indicted on federal election interference charges by special counsel Jack Smith. He pleaded not guilty in that case. For more on this, let's bring in NBC News correspondent Blaine Alexander, who is at the Fulton County Courthouse. And joining us right here on set is NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos. Good morning to the both of you. Blaine, we'll begin with you there on the ground. What are we learning about these witnesses that were called to testify in these grand jury proceedings? What does it tell us about where District Attorney Willis is in her investigation at this point?
Well, guys, it tells us that she's poised to present to a grand jury this week. You know, when we look at the witnesses, it certainly gives us insight into how she's going to be presenting this case to the grand jury. We know that she has a much more widened scope of investigation beyond just that infamous phone call from Donald Trump to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. So when you look at the two people that we know are going to testify, it shows you just how she's going to be putting this case before a grand jury. Let's start with George Chidi. He is an independent journalist. He's the person who kind of stumbled, in his words, upon this meeting of the alternate electors at the state capitol back in 2020. He's the one who was also ushered quickly out of the room. So likely he's going to be asked to testify about that. So we know, of course, that she's looking into that slate of fake electors. And then, of course, when you look at the former Lieutenant Governor, Jeff Duncan, a Republican, he can speak to the pressure that former President Trump and his allies put on state officials to overturn the election results here in Georgia. Here's a little bit of what he said over the weekend, looking ahead to his testimony tomorrow. Take a look.
Yeah, I did just receive notification to appear on Tuesday morning at the Fulton County Grand Jury, and I certainly will be there to do my part in recounting the facts. I have no expectations as to the questions, and I'll certainly answer whatever questions put in front of me, and certainly don't want to go any deeper than that to jeopardize or compromise the investigation. But look, for me, this is a story that is important for Republicans to hear, Americans to hear. Let's hear the whole truth and nothing but the truth about Donald Trump's actions and the surrounding cast of characters around him.
And so you heard from him. Now, those are the two that we know are going to testify tomorrow. There are two others who have received their subpoena that NBC News has also been in touch with. We've been in touch with them, Jen Jordan and Bee Nguyen. Both of them are former state lawmakers. They're important to this investigation because they were inside a panel where they heard presentations from Rudy Giuliani, where he espoused a number of since debunked claims about Georgia's election and election fraud here in the state. Of course, we know that that's something that Fani Willis has included in the scope of her investigation as well, guys.
Danny, let's turn to you. Does a summons to testify mean that a witness has to appear before a grand jury, and does it make a difference that they were also subpoenaed?
Under Georgia law, it appears that the summons is basically similar to a subpoena. A grand jury subpoena commands someone to either bring documents or themselves and come testify. And in this case, while normally in legal parlance, a summons is something more like when you're sued in court, you have to be served with a summons, or jury members are summoned to the courthouse. Under Georgia law, they appear to be about the functional equivalent.
Danny, we don't know the charges that Willis is seeking here specifically yet, though it has been strongly sort of suggested anti-racketeering statutes could come up. Explain that to us and what the potential implication of that is.
Racketeering, super complicated statute. Georgia law has a very broad racketeering statute, arguably broader than the federal counterpart. And that's why prosecutors like using it. Basically, what it involves is an enterprise, and that enterprise could arguably be the Trump campaign. It could also be the presidency itself. And then you also have a pattern of racketeering activity. And really all that is two or more of what are called predicate crimes or acts. And those predicate crimes are listed in the statute. And the reason prosecutors love RICO statutes is that they have longer statutes of limitations, that you can fold in all these different acts. You don't even necessarily need to prove the underlying crimes, or you could charge those underlying crimes as well. What it does is it really just broadens a prosecutor's power to bring charges. But don't be surprised if there isn't any racketeering charges in an indictment at all. The prosecutor could charge the underlying crimes that make up the predicates because maybe the prosecutor sees that as easier. But if this is a large indictment indicting a number of people, I would expect there's a good chance you'd see a RICO charge.
Blaine, security for District Attorney Willis has been increased over the last few weeks, but a social media post from Trump over the weekend is bringing more attention to Willis. Is her security expected to heighten again as a result?
You know, I think it's important to point out that these attacks are nothing new, right? She certainly had heightened security for quite some time, more than a year ago. She told me that she was upping her security because of all of the threats. And certainly we've heard from the former president calling her out, slamming the investigation, even from the campaign trail, different speeches. So these attacks are nothing new. What is new is that they've increased in recent days and they've become more pointed. He's also, his campaign has launched an ad that has been airing on Atlanta television, also smearing the DA in her investigation. She responded to that ad in an email to her employees, basically saying, listen, don't get distracted. Don't, really read into this, even telling them don't go out and defend me on social media or talk about this. We have a job to do. We need to stay focused. So to your question about security, her security is high. It's been high, and I'd imagine it's going to continue to remain high for the coming days and weeks, guys.
Okay, Blaine Alexander, thank you, and Danny Savalos, thank you so much.
Well, Republican candidate Mike Pence is speaking out about another ongoing special counsel investigation, this one involving Hunter Biden. On Friday, Attorney General Merrick Garland gave special counsel status to the attorney investigating the president's son. Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss has been investigating Hunter Biden since 2019, but it's not yet clear exactly what allegations are on the table. On Sunday's Meet the Press, Pence said he welcomed that move. Here's moderator Chuck Todd with more on their conversation.
Well, hello there, Savannah and Valerie. This week on Meet the Press, the former vice president and 2024 presidential candidate Mike Pence joined me to discuss the Attorney General's appointment of a special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden and how it could all impact the 2024 presidential race. Take a listen to what he had to say.
The pattern of the Justice Department during our 4 years in the White House and since has undermined public confidence in equal treatment under the law. And while I welcome the appointment of a special counsel, which is, of course, appropriate and is a minimum where the Attorney General has a potential conflict of interest, I'm also comforted by the fact that Congress is going to continue to do its work. I am hopeful that Special Counsel Weiss will do his job without fear or favor, but I have confidence that Jim Jordan, Congressman Comer, and others will continue to do their job for the American people.
Look, I couldn't help but notice you had said that the Justice Department, even in the 4 years that you guys oversaw it, you thought also didn't seem to conduct investigations fairly. Why do you think this is? How is it that this is a bipartisan problem that you're identifying?
Well, look, it started in 2016 when James Comer gave Hillary Clinton a pass, right? That no other American would have gotten. If I have the privilege of being president of the United States, we're not just going to have a new attorney general and a new FBI director, Chuck, but I'm going to clean house on the whole top floor of the Justice Department and demand that we have men and women who are respected on both sides of the aisle as people of integrity who will apply the rule of law in this country equally to every American.
Well, you can see my full interview, more and more of it, at meetthepress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press right here on NBC News Now every single weekday at 4 p.m.
All right, Chuck, thank you so much.
Candidates for the GOP presidential nomination have been out in force, stumping in one of the most heavily sought-after states at the Iowa State Fair. According to a recent poll conducted by Siena College and the New York Times, it's former President Trump who has the lead in Iowa, with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis more than 20 points behind, and no other GOP candidate even hitting double digits. NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray joins us now with more on the State Fair. Good morning, Mark. So let's start with former President Trump. How was he received this weekend, and what campaigning strategies did we see from him?
Yeah, Valerie, the former president ended up swooping in, taking the Iowa State Fair by force, first spotted in his private plane, then doling out his MAGA gear and hats to supporters, needling his chief rival, Ron DeSantis, on agriculture policy, and then maybe most importantly of all, bringing an entourage of Florida congressmen and women who've endorsed Trump over Ron DeSantis, all kind of trying to poke at vulnerabilities at the Florida governor.
Speaking of Ron DeSantis, he's polling in second place. He did not have as warm of a welcome in Iowa, did he?
Yeah, so he's replaced his campaign manager, and he's had some difficulty in the polls. And he ended up flipping pork chops, having a one-on-one with Iowa's Governor Kim Reynolds. But he ended up getting disrupted by some liberal protesters. Take a listen.
Some people put their agenda ahead of honoring veterans, and they think they're not even from this county, and they come and they want to scream over other people. That's not how we work. We want to lift people up. We want to aim higher. We want a country that can be united again, and people like that are holding this country back.
That's not all that uncommon at the Iowa State Fair, where people get to attend and sometimes can needle some of the presidential candidates. So that kind of flack that DeSantis was receiving wasn't all too uncommon.
And Mark, Nikki Haley spoke to NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale while she was at the fair. She had some choice words about President Trump. Let's take a listen.
I know Trump very well. Yeah. I know exactly what gets under his skin. I know exactly what he does. So, look, I think he was the right president at the right time. I don't think he's the right president going forward. And I think when you put all of the options on that stage, people are going to be able to tell which direction they want to go. They don't want to go backwards.
All right, some needling all around there. Mark, what do you make of that?
Well, she has been calling for a new generation of leadership. That has been the primary argument that she's made running against Donald Trump. And you heard her talk about that debate stage. And one of the biggest questions about the August 23rd Republican presidential debate will be whether or not Donald Trump ends up attending, being either someone that the candidates end up attacking in person or in absentia.
Okay, thanks for unpacking all of that for us, Mark Murray. Thank you.
Well, at least 5 people were killed after a house exploded on a suburban street in Pennsylvania. The blast destroyed 3 homes and damaged about a dozen others. Officials say they expect the investigation into the cause of this to last for months. NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa has the details.
The force of the incident so powerful, neighbors described it as a bomb going off. Well, when they stepped outside, they say it looked like one did too. So you can see the explosion literally leveled several homes here. You can just make out the shells of those cars there in an explosion that claimed the lives of 5 people. A western Pennsylvania neighborhood in pieces after a deadly house explosion rattled the area. The terrifying incident in Plum captured on a doorbell camera. You can see debris shooting across the whole block and the fireball that demolished several homes on Saturday morning.
We have a whole building completely gone. We have copious amounts of debris.
Greg Renko lives several doors down. As a police officer, you hear an explosion and you run towards it.
Yes.
Renko helped carry his neighbor from the raging fire, who now, he says, is in critical condition.
We're fighting through the debris, the rubble, the fire, trying to get our neighbor out of there, but not a second thought was given.
Authorities concluded their recovery mission at the decimated lot. 5 people were killed, including 1 child, and nearly 60 firefighters treated by EMS. As the cause of the explosion remains a mystery, gas has been shut off in this neighborhood as a precaution.
At this point, we can share that our system was operating as designed. It's still too soon to estimate when service will be restored.
Fire officials say the explosion leveled 3 homes and damaged at least another dozen in the Pittsburgh suburb. Such a force blowing out windows 4 homes away.
I was sitting right here. My wife.
Families like the Kolenkowskis now left to pick up the pieces and face the utter devastation that claimed the lives of 5 of their friends.
I was with 3 of them the night before, and then not even 12 hours later, we find ourselves in this situation.
People here still evaluating the extent of the damage, not just on this unrecognizable block, but debris was literally thrown across the neighborhood. Authorities say it could take months, if not years, to determine the cause of the deadly explosion. Back to you.
All right, Emily Aketa, thanks so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.